I'm going to talk about one topic today. And let me know if you like these one topic videos. I usually do, a mix of longer 3-topic videos and some one topic videos. Let me know what you like. Welcome for people already jumping in. Thank you. Today I want to talk about the Trump ROX pharmaceutical website that I didn't have much confidence in the first place. Nothing what this administration has delivered thus far, I don't think can be categorized as some big win. Some of the credits to the situation they try to play out as wins for him, I don't think are honest. But one of the biggest schemes, one of the biggest hustles that is happening right now is the Trump RX MAHA. Well, MAHA itself is just a total fraud led by a complete lunatic who doesn't know what he's doing, RFK Jr., and a wellness fraud in Dr. Oz. This is why I hate Oprah. Oprah introduced some of the worst personas to American society through her daytime talk show. Anybody that holds Oprah up on a pillar, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. You're just wrong. She played you to make herself wealthy by introducing some of the worst fraudsters, some of the worst personalities in the country. And Dr. Oz was one of them. So I'm wearing different glasses today. I'm wearing my fixed focal lens glasses. My eyes are tired, and it makes it really easy for me to read the screen because I have a lot of notes for today's video. The problem is if I turn my head and I try to look across the room, I can't see anything. So if I do weird things with my eyes, it's because I'm wearing different glasses. My sunglasses are in the car and my wife's gone, so I don't have my sunglasses with me. Those are also prescription lenses too. So let's get into the Trump RX. They want to make you believe that, Trump RX is this real thing. Okay. But is it? They want you to believe that Trump RX thing is some kind of healthcare breakthrough. Like someone just came down off the mountain and carrying some sacred tablets of medical affordability. How did I break this to you, folks? This is not the 10 Commandments coming down off the mountain. Well, you're talking Trump RX or the whole MAGA thing. It's not real. When you're talking specifically about Trump RX, all Trump RX is a coupon mailer. This is junk mail wrapped up in a patriotic paint job. This is, from my childhood in the 70s, this is S&H green stamps for the country who's being bled dry by high premiums, super high deductibles, pharmacy benefit managers, the pharmacy middlemen that all they do is inflate the cost for you, the consumer, for-profit hospital monopolies, who, by the way, were not ready for a pandemic. The 3 large nonprofit chains were. The rest of the for-profit chains were not. And of course, what we have across a lot of spaces in our economy, we have corporate price gouging. Okay. How many prescriptions are available today on Trump RX, the MAHA solution to all pharmaceutical problems, they claim? 54 drugs. I think they may have added a couple, maybe 57, but the working number last week I looked up was they have a total of 54 drugs. 54 drugs. They say this is a solution when Americans currently in 1 year will take approximately 6,800 different prescriptions. And they say 54 drugs is a solution to our healthcare prescription problems. Like they say that 54 number with a straight face, like they just cured polio or cancer or male pattern baldness in one afternoon. Okay. It's like they created a dick pill that doesn't have the 4-hour problem. Okay. 54 medications in a country that uses thousands of medicines and fills billions of prescriptions per year. This is not reform. This is not transformation. This is not even a respectable pilot program. This is a grocery store sample tray. This is taking the cracker and cheese from the gal at Costco. And then she hands you a coupon for buying the product. Is that a healthcare solution? And like I look at Trump RX, I go, no, thank you, Satan. You're just playing people here. This is a cash-only green stamp site with 54 drugs. How many drugs does that represent in the greater American market for pharmaceuticals? Less than point. Let me make sure I get this number right because I researched all this. Yeah, it's less than 1%. It's 0.79% of all the drugs that are sold to Americans in a year. This scam is not even subtle. I mean, and this is what's bothering me about the second term is nothing that they're freaking laying down here is subtle. They're in your face telling you, this is how I plan on screwing you. Now, the big screw you and Trump RX, these are all name brand drugs, but you need your SNH green stamps. If you don't know what those are, you're too young because they don't exist anymore. It's like traveler checks. They don't exist anymore. The American Express travel checks are still valid. They're still money. They're still a private check, but they don't issue new ones anymore. If you don't understand what green stamps are, just look at my notes. It will show you the picture of the old coupons you used to collect at the supermarket, and you could turn those in for discounts or products. They were like, a lot of people may know it better as Sky Mall. Remember the little magazine and if you're a generation behind me, it's Sky Mall. We had SNH green stamps, then it was Sky Mall. So you can think of it either way. 90% of the pharmaceutical market in America is generics. They left out generics, which is most of where most Americans actually live in the pharmacy space. That's like announcing you've solved the American transportation problem by discounting 6 luxury yachts and a used Segway. Wonderful. The entire presentation of Trump RX, the MAGA pharmaceuticals, which is part of the bigger MAHA problem here, the entire thing has the energy of a late night info commercial hosted by a guy with a felony record with shellacked hair, an American flag pin, and 3 bankrupt casinos behind him. Who does that sound like? Why aren't people asking why our healthcare policy is the Sky Mall catalog? Or if you're older, the SNH green stamps. I mean, how did we create this? Did Ronald McDonald, Dr. Oz, and the My Pillow guy lock themselves in a boardroom and go, gentlemen, how would you like to pretend to fix medicine without touching a single powerful, profitable item or a real problem in the healthcare system? No, we need to get this done in 6 hours so we can report it up to the heroin-abusing steroid addict, Robert Kennedy Jr. Because the tell here is the way they're presenting it. Okay, isn't it the way they're presenting it? The tell. I mean, I see it plainly. I see it hyper clearly. They're not touching any of the real machinery in the healthcare space. They're not touching insurers. They're not touching the pharmacy PBMs, the pharmacy bureau managers, or pharmacy benefit managers. Not hospital building, not the hospital fluff building. Remember, I told you I was in the accident. My bill was 250,000 ish. My lawyer got involved, and all of a sudden it's 62,000. Yeah, it's not just hospital billing that's expensive. If you get admitted, you get fluff billing because they're trying to cover the cost of 3 patients through 1 patient who has good insurance. That's not a fix to healthcare. That's robbing Peter to rob Paul. Okay. We're not talking about monopoly prices in the healthcare space managed by pharmacy benefit managers and executives of for-profit hospital chains. We're not dealing with deductibles that will bankrupt Americans. They're just the deductibles, especially after the subsidies went away. I'm seeing this working class guy out of like Missouri telling him, yeah, my payments went up to $10,000 a year and my deductible went up to $26,000 a year. Well, sir, how much do you make a year? Oh, I take home about $28,000 a year. Okay, so if he gets sick, he's broke. That's not a fix. They're not even attempting to deal with the fact that a routine medical event in America, like a broken arm for a kid or a broken leg for a kid, can make a working family go set up a GoFundMe page because the kid got a broken leg. GoFundMe is not a healthcare fix. You know, and it doesn't help we have con men, cowards, and idiots, because none of them can muster the actual courage required to fix this system, to create the actual policy that will make healthcare better and work like virtually every other country, industrialized, modernized country on earth. From Germany to Ireland to Norway to Sweden to Japan to Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia. We are unique in the level of problems with healthcare. So what did they do? They put Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the lunatic, heroin abusing steroid addict, who tells you that beef tallow is a solution to all your medical problems. Okay? They put it in. That's what they did and claim they're fixing healthcare. Amy says, preach. Thank you, Amy. What the saddest part about this is what they did is they just laid down the actual confirmation that the moneyed interests in America come first, not your family, not life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You are to be a usury victim to support the profits of these captured markets, swindled, arranged profits, like the pharmacy benefit managers. I'll find a couple of articles and I'll pin them in the comments here, because there's a couple of really good articles I've read recently about pharmacy benefit managers do nothing but increase your healthcare costs. They didn't exist until someone decided, hey, this is a great scheme. We can shave off points off the whole, multi-billion-dollar prescription market. And they did. Why? Congress let them. Why? Because lobbyists write the laws, give them money, and tell them what to do. And that's how you get a casino operation that robs you as a healthcare system. Instead of giving us something real, they gave us a glorified manufacturing coupon site, and they tell you this is a healthcare revolution. Beef tallow! Ugh! This is not a healthcare revolution. This is a stupid prop. This is a crappily made stage prop. It's a set piece. It's a cardboard control panel on the bridge of the starship while the engine's on fire and the ship's about to crash. What this reminds me of is the classic movie Wizard of Oz. This is the healthcare policy. If the guy behind the curtain was screaming at you while the flames are going off and there's a giant head floating in the air and there's a lot of theatrical smoke and the curtains move and there's a little hack in the back room with a discount portal yelling, "Pay no attention to the structural corruption behind the screen." It's like, oh God. So no, this is not a solution. This is cosplaying a solution. The same way that Kristi Noem cosplayed Homeland Security. This is what this is their total capability set. They can deliver nothing more. This is like Dr. Nick on The Simpsons. Calls himself a doctor, can't really deliver anything but bullshit. At least Dr. Hilbert will give you a bong on The Simpsons. They're trying to say that the government is solving a problem, and the government was all the problem until dear leader Pornstar Humper got there. Now government will solve all your problems for you. I will build you your little American utopia by government fiat. So what they give you as a healthcare plan? A government healthcare website by promotion code that only deals with 0.79% of the prescriptions. I think Mark Cuban's effort covers a lot more. I would think. Let me look that up. They're expecting people who can't afford the medications to begin with. They can't afford the deductions. They're literally making choices between food and taking care of their health. Do I skip dinner so I can afford my pill? That sort of stuff. This is a healthcare policy, which essentially is a Hallmark greeting card taped over a repossession notice of your house and your savings account. I mean, that's the insult of the whole situation. They pat us on the head and tell us they're fixing everything. What do they give us? Emptiness. See what we did? 90% of the prescriptions in this country are generics. Will not cover a single generic. Look how we just solved healthcare problems in prescriptions. The emptiness of this is so bad. You leave out 99.21% of all drugs, 99.21% of all drugs, and say, look what I did for you. Pat you on the head because I think you're an imbecile. I'm a con artist. I'm a convicted felon. I'm an adjudicated rapist. This guy's a heroin addict. This guy's a wellness fraud. The new Surgeon General doesn't have a medical license and no real medical experience. She didn't even make it through her residency. Just like I talked about the other day, Mark Wayne Mullen is not qualified. Kristi Noem is not qualified to be DHS, and neither am I. And I had 14 years of law enforcement experience. Okay, but I didn't have the kind of experience needed to run a national security force. Neither did they. Now, where you should be concerned. Hello, FBI. Counter Fraud Division, Government Fraud Division. Hello. London, are you hearing me? Where we should all be concentrating is who is the consultant that thought this up? Who got paid to think up this bullshit? Because someone made an absolute fucking fortune turning mass suffering because they literally need to not just profit, they need to extract money out of the healthcare system and put it in the hands of people who are already extremely wealthy. So they turn this system, they're getting paid a fortune to extract money on you on a branded coupon experience, and they call it compassion. This is insulting. It truly is insulting. And here's where the real insulting part gets bad. It gets not just bad, it gets pretty freaking horrible. I spent a lot of time trying to look this up. The U.S. bankruptcy courts aren't as opaque as they should be. This is another thing we should probably require out of the courts. Since we are a data-driven society now, we should get the data from public data from the bankruptcy court. So it's a little hard to tell what was the primary cause. Was it medical? Was it job loss? Was it credit cards? So I can't tell like if it was the number one cause every year, but I can tell you if medical bills were part of a person or a family's problems and they had to file for bankruptcy, this is kind of the compendium. If medical bills were a part of the bankruptcy filing, this was the trend. In 2000, a BGAM report summarized research finding medical bills were involved in about 40% of bankruptcies from the prior year. So that would have been 1999. A very widely cited Harvard Health Affairs study attributed 46.2 of all 2001 bankruptcies to a major medical reason. That's about half. A later study found illness or medical bills contributed to 62.1% of the 2007 bankruptcies. And it gets worse. A 2019 follow-up found that 66.5, 2/3 of all bankrupt debtors reported at least one medical contributor, including bills or illness-related income loss. Medical bankruptcy has been the number one reason for bankruptcy for years. That's a little too neat, that statement. I heard it a dozen times. But even factcheck.org and what was the other site I read earlier today? I'm sorry, it was two factcheck.org's saying it's the number one bankruptcy reason for years. That's probably an overstatement, but even Fact Check acknowledges that if they were not the sole cause, they were at least a component or some, and many times a major component. Okay. So the careful version here of how bad medical bills impact American, and this is keeping it real from the best data available without the feels. Okay. The careful version is for at least 25 years now, medical costs and illnesses have been one of the biggest and often the biggest contributors to personal bankruptcy in the United States. Even though there is no clean official year-by-year leaderboard proving an uninterrupted streak. Okay? So the undeniable part is there is a common denominator to bankruptcies in this country. And that common denominator is medical costs, medical bills, loss of income due to illness. You know, every time I've gotten a good job, I always get the Aflac like plan. Like in case you lose your income, they replace your income and pay your bills. But I know like that's wishful thinking for somebody that's on the lower end of the income spectrum. I mean, I can afford to buy insurance out the yin-yang at my jobs. I make a pretty decent money. My last job, I mean, really good money. Also, last year consulting was pretty awesome too. I made big tech money last year, so that was good. But we get all my benefits to my wife's work because I'm self-employed now, back to being self-employed. But I know we would be in a different financial picture if it wasn't for those gracious benefits she gets from her workplace. And making affordability because affordability is linked to outcome in healthcare. If you can't afford treatments like your diabetes medication, your insulin, we have several friends with that problem. At one part, I even considered just giving several $100s to one of my daughter's girlfriends, just saying, just go buy what you need at the store. I mean, go to the pharmacy, stock up whatever you can get. How much is it going to cost? $300? Here you go. She found another way to cover it, but I was one night I was reaching in my wallet and I was like, okay, just go take care of what you need. Friend of the family kind of thing. But we shouldn't be making, because Germany doesn't do that. Norway doesn't do that. Denmark doesn't do that. The Netherlands doesn't do that. France doesn't do that. Australia, Japan, Malaysia, they don't do this. They don't make effective healthcare outcomes correlated to what your take-home pay was in the last couple of years. I mean, because there's no reasonable way to pay for a lot of these modern healthcare solutions. Okay. I don't even want to know how much my last surgery with. I'm just glad that, at least for that part, I don't really, it's okay, I guess, but I'm not like a big fan of Kaiser. But I am a big fan of their surgery department because I didn't see a bill. They even waived the deductible, which I think was only $500, which I would have no problem paying. But they're like, nah, you're an inpatient. The administrator just waived it, told my wife, no, it's $0. Oh, okay. Why? Because we have great benefits. Because my wife happens to have a really good job. That's the benefit of her job. It's not the pay, it's the benefits. I make far, far, far much more money than my wife does. But healthcare shouldn't be assigned by annual income or total wealth. That's unethical, it's immoral, and it's not a solution. Because anytime you have those systems, you rob Peter to rob Paul. And robbing Peter to rob Paul is not a solution. Okay? That's why we have to be careful. I know today is No Kings. I spent a lot of times reading different people from really, really some of the left content I follow, and a lot of the center right content I follow. Bristol says the healthcare system sounds like the justice system. If you're rich, you're golden. If you're poor, you're dead. Yeah, that's a good parallel. Yeah, especially states that have been arguing that defendants in court shouldn't have the privilege actually, it's not a privilege, it's a Supreme Court decision, it's a right, of a lawyer under Gideon versus U.S. Very briefly, Gideon was an indigent. He was not an intelligent man. He really didn't understand the court proceedings. They made him defend himself because he couldn't afford a lawyer. And of course, the court hammered him. And when that got up to the Supreme Court, no, you can't do that. You cannot take a simple man into a complex situation and tell him to defend for himself, because that's it's a violation of his due process rights. Okay, because I think they found several constitutional problems with that one. And it's also a 14th Amendment equal protection problem. And yeah, healthcare shouldn't be that. But the faults canard a lot of Americans who are affluent. Okay, they think they can pay this out of pocket. But what I was just about to say before the comment was put up is a lot of these modern treatments don't cost thousands of dollars. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like there are drugs on the market today that cost 6 figures a month to administer. Okay, who the hell can afford that? Okay, and the whole in the back end problem. The serious backup problem I had is how Congress and government regulators allowed healthcare insurance to be sold by false contract. What they sell you as a contract often is not what they deliver. Now, that's one credit I have to give Kaiser, Mass General, and Mayo in the Midwest, Ohio. is they don't do that to patients. Many of the insurance carriers and health groups do exactly that. And that's a problem. They sell you a false contract. Hey, we're covering your health care. Just give us $1,000 a month and all your worries are done, right? Well, no. This is an exception. You're not covered for that. Oh, no, you need not one approval. You need 2 approvals. So you miss more days of work, even though the next doctor all tell you the same thing. Okay. Forcing you in that revaluation, sending you a doctor, sending you to their doctor where they have the finger on the scale on whether or not to approve your expensive procedure. Okay. That's not the way it works in other countries. In fact, several countries, it's a crime to do that. If you did that in France, you'd end up in jail. You did that in Denmark, you'd probably end up losing your license, and I don't know if it's criminal there, but they would go after you hard, civilly, take away your license, fine you, that sort of thing. Because there's a fraud element to these contracts that were never solved. And false contract is fine as long as they're selling false contract to the working class. Because if you're extremely rich, I mean, Professor G, Scott Galloway's explained this. He's stinking rich. He's worth what, $150 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. You know, he was an investor, a startup guy, a founder, funder, whatever. He made some big bucks. Good for him. Okay. He doesn't pay healthcare insurance. He just buys a bond, which is a fraction of the price of health insurance, and he covers him and his whole family for whatever happens. And of course, the bond is super cheap compared to her health insurance, and it's inconsequential to him given his wealth. Okay, so the really rich people, the people like above $50 million in total assets, they're not even in the healthcare insurance game. They go out and buy a bond, and the bond pays them back. It's a liability bond, but specifically for healthcare. Same way they don't pay for auto insurance. Like, I worked in a very wealthy enclave with even wealthier enclaves nearby as a peace officer. They passed a law years ago that you had to have proof of insurance at every traffic stop. So 100 times at least, somebody didn't show me a Geico or a State Farm insurance certificate. They showed me a bond certificate. They didn't pay for fucking auto insurance. They just buy one big bond that covers them for 10 years. And it's lower than the health insurance, lower than the auto insurance, and covers everything. It's general liability for whatever they do with their vehicles. Okay, so they don't even play the auto insurance game, just like they don't play the health insurance game. The health insurance game is for people who get a paycheck. In most cases, if you're like one of the super, like you're like a P6, superstar engineer at one of the big tech companies, after you cash out and walk away, you lose your company benefits. So you probably directly go out and buy a bond to cover all your liabilities, your home insurance, your auto insurance, your healthcare insurance. People can't sell their homes on the West Coast because the buyers can't buy insurance. Nobody will sell it to them. Okay. The wealthy don't do the open home insurance market. They just buy a bond. Or they buy a tiny home insurance policy and then they buy a bond for all the upper end damage. Yeah, I still buy home insurance because I can afford it. I buy a lot of it. House is worth far more damage than it is standing. But understand why the healthcare scheme is being presented to you in this fashion, especially the Trump RX website. It's complete bunk. It's complete, utter bunk. There's nothing to it. And this is a final note. And this really tells you how farcical the Trump RX website and RFK and Dear to Leader, Porn Star Humper, and Dr. Oz, this is what a con artist. Trump was never really a real businessman. You have to realize that by now. Okay? He was spending daddy's money pretending to be a big boy. Okay? And then he just turned into con artistry because he was the frat boy, out of control frat boy from his teenage years to now. Okay? Now, I'm telling you that Trump RX doesn't solve a single fucking problem and can't. When covering no generics, which is 90% of all pharmaceuticals sold every year. And they only cover 0.79% of all drugs available on the American market for pharmaceuticals. Now let's compare that to somebody who actually gives a shit about solving a problem because he's a real businessman, Mr. Mark Cuban. Mr. Mark Cuban created costplusdrugs.com, which now cover a third of all drugs on the market. 1/3. 2,300 prescriptions are available at costplusdrugs.com. There's 50, at most 57. It's somewhere between 54 and 57. I think they added a couple of things. Again, my numbers, I was doing research last week for this video. I always got things stacked up for talks and essays. So it was, we're going to use the working number 54. 33% of all drugs, roughly, are available at Cost Plus Drugs by Mark Cuban. 0.79% and no generics are available at MAHA website. Who's pulling your fucking leg and who's trying to find a solution? Okay. Now, here's another zinger for MAHA and their fake pharmacy site. What does Cost Plus Drugs cover? What is available on their website? The top 1,000 used drugs in America. All at lower cost than most people can pay. Their goal is to have 6,000 medications available, and including for hospitals, so hospitals can lower their bills to you in the back end. Okay. Almost every single high-cost generic medication, because just because it's generic does not mean it's cheap. It just means it's cheaper. Okay? They can still be expensive for a working family. Okay? But they cover almost every high-cost generic medication on Cost Plus Drugs. They don't cover any generics whatsoever. And of the 54 drugs that are on Trump RX, the fake MAHA solution, most of them are boutique drugs. They're not top-selling drugs. They're not blockbusters. They're not the most used. And Cost Plus Drugs not only wants to sell to hospitals, they want to sell to pharmacies too. So if they give them a look, because they can buy bulk, and they can deliver the discounts. Exactly what the GOP said they would never allow. Okay. Now Trump, to cover up, said, hey, we're never allowing Medicare, Medicaid, Veterans Administration, Indian Affairs. Does SBA have a small business and health insurance program? I don't know. I'm sure there's programs everywhere. But if you're federal government, you have anything to do with covering people, you're not allowed to negotiate. You just pay the highest cost presented. Okay, so right now we're talking that Cuban's effort has somewhere around 2,300 pharmaceutical prescriptions, almost all the high-cost generic medications, and the 54 drug list from MAHA looks microscopic in comparison. Are you getting the con yet, America? You know, in Cost Plus Drugs is basically a startup. They just put enough front-end cash into it so they could buy up bulk. And they put a huge dent in pharmaceutical costs for a lot of Americans. MAHA's Trump RX site does absolutely nothing but give you an S&H green stamp. So the next time you see your uncle, your grandfather, your neighbor, whatever, and they got their little Trump hat on, ask them what expensive pharmaceutical drugs they're on. Then look at the Trump RX site on your phone and go, oh, look, none of your medications are covered. And that's on purpose. The business fraud and the hucksters he appointed at health services wanted to play you. You're the mark. Okay. There was another guy that totally wanted to actually try to, take some of the pain out of this problem. And I really don't like the idea of a government-run healthcare program, to be honest about it. Because we already have the systems that work. It's the nonprofits. They're still private. Now, we can have a lot of subsidy or even maybe an insurance board if the private companies refuse to do it reasonably. But the real solution to our healthcare problems is already right there before our eyes. It's the nonprofits. Mass General, Mayo, Kaiser. The real effort is what HHS is killing under RFK and Dr. Oz. The medical research that only the government can afford to do. Okay? It's those custom medications that are so freaking risky that the only people that will make them is the CDC. And what did we do at the CDC? We laid them off. So you know that tens of thousands of Americans that need custom drugs to stay alive are not getting their medicines and haven't for over a year because we literally closed the CDC's pharmacy? Under the guise of efficiency. Like the Iran war is efficient. Am I right? Paying Michael Flynn $1.2 million on a bogus lawsuit. That's economic efficiency, right? Again, are you getting the con yet, America? Really, I don't want to do I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. That was the last video, but I don't want to turn into Howard Beale here. But please, can you put some sanity back into this assembly? Nobody else does this in the world but us. Why? Because they like ripping off people who earn a paycheck. As the economy goes, probably the fourth quintile, you can break up the economy, the earnings level per year into quintiles. The first four quintiles are the ones that have to deal with health insurance. The top quintile really doesn't have to. Like I said, they can buy bonds. They have other means to deal with it. So they have a target audience to screw. And this is screwing people. And Trump RX, MAHA website for pharmaceuticals is a lie. It is a purposeful con that is no better than S&H green stamps or fucking Sky Mall. Okay. Just a quick closing note. I put up in notes last couple of days. I forget when I actually put it there. I put up the graph of membership. M. Hope says, heard Trump RX is like good RX with less drugs but better branding. Well, I doubt the better branding, but yeah, less drugs for sure. Like good RX has got a couple hundred of them, and it's the same thing. It's a coupon thing. It's not a real healthcare solution. It's a pay out of pocket with a coupon. Okay, and if you get one of the expensive generics, you're screwed still. Yeah. Okay, but I was saying a couple of days ago, I put up the graph about how how independents are really the majority in this country. Take a look at that. The data is real. The political parties do not control America. Independents do. So we should be more independent. Be independent, vote independent, run for local office as an independent. Okay. Because we had a chance at fixing it. Remember when Hillary Clinton told us she was going to fix it as first lady when she has no political power to do it? What did that set up? What did Hillbots pretending she was a politically elected official under the Clinton administration? What did that set up? Well, just last week, the senior advisor to Melania Trump said Melania Trump is now going to start issuing, and I'm quoting, executive orders. Do you think I was naive for voting for Nader? Somewhat yes, somewhat no. Let me explain. Yes, because Nader could never generate the numbers to actually win an election, and every single poll showed that. It was a throwaway vote. Now, hey, I'm not dissing you. I'm not dissing you. I voted for Gary Johnson, the governor of New Mexico, for president as a write-in because I couldn't stand either Hillary or Trump. Okay, that was my bad. Sorry. You voted for Nader, that was your bad? I had a bad too. Okay, I think Gary Johnson would have been an actual good president. And I think Ralph Nader would have been a decent guy. Okay, a lot of his super, pump up stuff wouldn't have got through. Wouldn't have got through Congress. Same way that Bernie shit wouldn't get through. There's no way Congress, even Democrats, are going to sign on to a wealth tax where you start taking away fixed assets from people. That's not happening. We pay time of the tax. We pay the time of taxation is the time of realization. And the problem isn't the fixed asset problem. It's the fact is you let them turn untaxed money into fixed assets. That's the problem. Okay. If you'd have taxed them, like I always use the example of the ridiculous $53 billion paycheck that Elon Musk wanted. Okay. Do you know his Social Security taxes would have stopped at $180-ish thousand? Okay. If you're below $180,000, your payroll tax, which is the FICA, which is Medicare and Social Security, that comes up to 12.4%. And usually your employer throws that all out to you by giving you a lower salary. Okay. You get a 12.4% lower salary because they're paying your payroll tax, roughly. Okay. Some jobs less no, some jobs more yes. So the payroll tax is 12.4% if you're 180,000 and below, the threshold amount below. If you're a millionaire, like you're one of the big techie guys at Facebook or Apple or something, and you're pulling down $990,000 a year plus bonuses, yeah, they exist. That's not me, but they exist. Their taxation rate is about 2.1%, because again, they cap out at they cap out at $180-ish thousand. So everything above that is tax-free when it comes to payroll taxes. Okay. Well, if you go to billionaires, people who are taking in billions of income, their tax rate comes out to be about 0.000002% in payroll taxes. Okay. So when they tell you, oh, we can't afford Social Security. No, you just defunded Social Security with a tax trick. That's all you did. If you're going to charge a payroll tax, you should charge a payroll tax to all realized payment for labor and income from work. It should be a level playing field. And if they did that a dollar for dollar, I studied that months ago. Dollar for dollar, the trust fund would be completely fine today. Even with all the economic fuckery that's going on, the trust fund would have been fine. Especially considering how much money the trust fund would have taken in extra during the Clinton administration's period, where Clinton didn't try to solve this problem, remember? Okay, left-right orthodoxy, they both get elected telling you they're going to solve all your problems. Well, Clinton never solved the payroll tax problem when the country was flush with cash with the tech boom. Everybody cashed out their stock options. Everybody's stock options above 180 never was taxed for payroll taxes, even though it's payment for labor. There would be zero trust fund problems at Social Security if a dollar was a dollar when it came to payroll taxes. It's that simple of a solution. Now, you want to make it even better because it also funds Medicare. You got to control healthcare costs because it doesn't matter how much money you throw into the kitty. If the back end becomes so expensive, they just eat the kitty every year. We need a trust fund that can carry year over year for the ebbs and flows of the economy, the boom and bust cycle, which we've been doing since the 70s. Hope says, that's so wrong. Yeah, it is wrong. It is wrong. It's an intentional defunding of a system that is supporting the well-being and care for the elderly and the disabled. That's why we also need to primary corporate Dems or the bullshit Democrats. I have no problem with the conservative Democrats, but Manchin is neither conservative nor a Democrat. And he keeps getting reelected. Okay? And there's too many false hopes in the Democratic Party. Okay? You need some, they need to do some soul searching because Democrats are going to be handed a total gift in November. Okay? The way I'm reading the polling, the way I'm listening to these interviews of these young Republicans at CPAC who hate Trump with a passion. Yeah, Matt Schlapp got dick slapped by his own party at his own confab. The young Republicans showed up and were like, no, we fucking hate Trump. We hate him with a passion. He's a con artist. Hope says, I'm talking about the bad ones like Schumer. Well, there's a list. It's far beyond Schumer. I agree with you on Schumer 100%. Jeffries has got to go too. He's useless. Now you got some good ones doing some good things. Like I really recommend take a shot at Senator Kim from New Jersey. He's got a tax plan. Wouldn't be my tax plan, but he's got a tax plan out there that at least gets away from the upward curve that we're going now with the debt and normalizes a lot of the taxation. I don't think it goes far enough, but it's further than any other Democrat has proposed since we deconstructed the old tax system from, way back from the 50s and 60s. So Kim, like I follow Kim on social media because I'm like, oh my God, this guy's intelligent and he speaks English and he's very straightforward and he's actually saying things when I read about the topics. He seems to be a straightforward guy. So, yeah. So I'm not saying every Democrat is bad. I'm actually a growing fan. I did not like her at the beginning. I'm a growing fan of AOC. Why? She's coming more to the center. She's stopping with a lot of the utopia building crap that has made Bernie Sanders a loser time and time again. It will make Elizabeth Warren a loser because she's moving away from the center. She's moving more and more to a left-wing authoritarianism, left-wing version of authoritarianism. Yeah, Warren's on a dangerous track right now. Not good. And I would love to see, and I've already, yeah, she's getting older. That's a big factor. Fresh out of college, first really big experience in life. And congrats to getting elected. I mean, anybody can get elected, even if you're a crook, like the one woman they just found in the ethics committee that needs to go. If you can get elected to Congress, that's a huge feat. Good, congratulations to you. But now you have to do a good job and not bullshit us. And she's not a dork. AOC is not stupid. Some of the retorts from the right are just way off base. The same thing with like sometimes the left. They'll do the same thing. Like all through the Bush era, I remember I remember the real lefties calling Dick Cheney stupid. And I'm like, he's evil as fuck. I seriously disagree with him. But if you think you're stupid, you just violated one of Sun Tzu's biggest adages. Know your enemy better than you know yourself. Cheney is quite an intelligent man, and calling him stupid was putting yourself at a disadvantage. Yeah, evil is not stupid, exactly. Completely. Okay, so that's what I wanted to break down for you today. We need a real solution that's based on world standards, not the distorted corporate socialist standard that's presented in America, where corporations profit off everything by extraction. To extract money out of people for healthcare, and I'm not talking about making a decent profit doing what you're doing. I'm talking about the extraction that's going on. Same usury that's going on with student loans, bad credit, bad mortgages, high taxation, low result, all that. But we need a better starting point for the change discussion when it comes to healthcare. And again, this is why the midterms is so freaking important. Okay, it's literally do or die for America at the midterms. And we need more collaborations like we see Massey and Kona. Okay, there's got to be some commonality between these two groups that actually provide a solution. That's the kind of people we need to vote for. If not, we'll find independents and we'll roll the dice with the independents, because the caucusing Congress members don't seem to be in the mood to fix much. Okay. The argument over the infrastructure bill under Biden, I still to this day, I find it ridiculous, especially as I'm driving through Nebraska on my way to the Midwest and watching 120 miles of Nebraska highway being dug up from dirt. I mean, even the load-bearing rock part was all being lifted. They were completely rebuilding this road from scratch with Biden's infrastructure money. And I'm going, of course we need to do this. Of course we need infrastructure. We need it in Nebraska. We need it in Massachusetts. We need it in Florida. We need it in California. Infrastructure is what makes things happen, not just economic and business. It's everything. So this whole, like, we get into this rapturous argument over how we should maintain the functional components of our system that drives everything about our American lives. We don't need these stupid arguments anymore. We need more saner voices and more people that are going to find commonality than argument. Okay. Once again, be independent, vote independent, run for local office as an independent. I've been registered nonpartisan independent now for over 25 years. Okay. At least minimally, please think independently. Okay. Because if you think independently and you went up to the Trump RX site and saw 54 drugs, you'd have got what a hustle this crap was. Okay. I'll be back real soon. Thank you for all being here. It's a great crowd. Check out my last essay about the pardons and how much money Trump has returned to felons. I won't give you the number. That's the Easter egg. His pardons have cost crime victims a lot of money in restitution. So go check that out. And I appreciate all your likes, your restacks and all that stuff. And I'll talk to you soon. Until next time, please think about it. And thank you all. Have a good day. Peace out.